All right, so in this last section, what we're going to do is we're going to lead you through how to work with the different types. The information on this handout is very rich. We've done surveys, thousands of coaching sessions, the tests. A lot of what's on here is what the types said themselves that they wanted from a coach or a therapist. And we also have in here what we have found works with the different types. So it's a combination of those two pieces coming together, which I think will be very helpful for you. You have this handout. Yeah, it's called Enneagram Coaching and Psychotherapy.
Thank you.
And because I think we have some 9s that had to leave early. What time do you have to leave?
4.
4.
And 9s are always overlooked.
So we're going to go backwards. We're going to go
Don't leave you out. So we're going to begin
We're going
with
to
you.
begin with 9 to honor the 9. So how do you want?
It's hard being a 9 and having 9 be the last number, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Let me set the template.
Sure.
Okay. So the way I look at this is from two directions. One is, what did the types say was important to them? And then the other is what David and I have found in the research and in working with the types, whether it's been coaching or in-depth sessions. There's certain patterns and key things you need to pay attention to. Now, there's much more than we can go into here. Obviously, we could do a week on that alone. It's a problem with having too much research. But with the 9, we go to the primary issue, which is sloth or laziness of awareness. It's not that 9s are not intelligent. They're very intelligent, but they're functionally dumb, meaning that they don't want to rock the boat. They don't want to be aware of something that will cause conflict, put them ill at ease, make a situation worse. So as David was saying earlier about the 9, it's not so much what they do, but what they don't do, crimes of omission. So if you have a defense strategy that says, don't make waves, then it's going to be very hard, and especially in therapy. The trigger, of course, we mentioned primarily is about feeling separate or in conflict with others. But 9s, to begin with, are not ones to seek therapy unless something extreme has happened or they've been introduced to it by a close friend or partner or parent, for that matter, that says you need to work on this. Because the 9s will just think it'll be okay. There's a need for okayness. So the first thing is for the 9 to even recognize that it's important. But once they've come to you, then there's an intent to work on what's causing them to feel uncomfortable, or whatever broke the straw, or the camel, rather, that straw that broke the camel's back. They often it's a friend or a mate, as I mentioned, who brings them in. The big issue is working in between sessions. So the 9 can often have powerful insights during the session, but then that's kind of put on a shelf, that's finished, and doesn't even come up during the week or the next time you meet with them. And then when you work with them, they go, oh yeah, and then the insight comes up again, and it's important and valuable. But there isn't a need. The defense strategy does not say, oh, notice this, notice that. So it's hard for 9s to really recognize what their inner observer is telling them, because they shut that observer down in favor of peace and harmony. So it's not that they're not getting it, it's that the natural defense says, don't do it. So it's really, really helpful to get 9s to work in between sessions with something. And one thing that I have found particularly helpful is listing of preferences. 9s really don't want to have to declare what their preferences are, because that can cause separation. And sometimes I'll just begin with having them fold a piece of paper in half and list what makes them uncomfortable, and then put the counterpart to it of what makes them feel comfortable. They can do it the other way around. The important piece here is to get them to see that they are coexisting. And if there's even more, if there's a third perspective, which there can be with 9s, then they can have another piece of paper. The point being that 9s are like holding the justice scales. They're trying to have balance. They're trying to even things out and to be even keel. Then they feel safe. The problem with even keel is those emotions, the highs and lows of life, inform us. And the 9 needs to go back and find out what they really feel, not damping it down in favor of comfort. The other thing is that if you can get them to do a collage, like these collages, all the better. Because archetypally, no one's better than a 9. Jung was probably a 9. Anything that is kind of coming from the psyche, the 9s get on a kind of subliminal level. That's why they're especially good as therapists, because they're feeling it, they're sensing it, and they know it non-verbally. So if they're willing and they really want to find out more about themselves, get them to put words and pictures together. And then they'll have a way to see their own inner process much, much more clearly than anything you could say. The danger with 9s is invading them, because they will wait for you to guide them, to lead the therapy session, to push on them, and in a way that's safe if you do that, and it gives them energy, because then their resistance comes in. And you haven't really accomplished anything. All you've done is set up either that you're leading it, you're in charge, and or they get to resist. And it doesn't move them anywhere. And it's helpful to kind of match them, merge with them, and then allow them to come forward and to ask questions. And when they say, I don't know, just recognize that's a defense. The defense of not knowing is a very important one for 9s. They say it more than any other type. And what they're really doing is asking for time. They're buying time. So you want to allow it and encourage it when they say that, and then ask them, okay, and if you were to guess, what might it be? And that's far safer, because then they're not fully declaring, and it's more open-ended, and they're much more comfortable. They've been told their whole lives that they're either agreeable or resigned or not showing up. They don't need to hear that. But you can help them recognize that resignation is a defense strategy, and that we need our defense strategies, and to find out how it helped them. And then they might be much more inclined to engage. And you're going to say, oh, well, it doesn't matter. And 8s and 9s in particular will say, oh, well, it doesn't matter. The 8 will say, I did what I had to do, and the 9 will say, I got over it, that's the way it is. And you just validate that and find out more about that, and at the same time ask, if it did matter, what would it be? And then it's easier. Because it's not so direct. And if you just kind of don't challenge in a gentle way, then nothing happens either. And then they're disappointed because things aren't changing.
And 9's tricky to work with, because they, in a way, will set you up to test you to fail. And they don't realize that they're doing it. And if you look in character structure, it's the masochistic character structure, it's the invasion wound. So I would just echo what Catherine said.